Namaste. In this video, we will be looking at the effects of Sade Sati on a native who is 26 years old. Now, the primary focus would be on the Saturn line, okay, and the Saturn mount. The Saturn line and the Saturn mount. Then we will look at the birth chart, which is the natal position of Saturn, the where is Saturn, and what exactly are the aspects and other features. Then we would also look at the age when the Sade Sati would start. Okay, now let us see. In this case, the Saturn is in Mesh Rashi, therefore it is Neech. The moon is in Mithun Rashi. When the Saturn enters, I'm talking about transit, when the Saturn enters or touches Taurus, Vrishab Rashi, that particular year the Sade Sati would commence. This means the year 2032. Okay, at that time this native would be 33 years old. All right, keep this in mind. The native will be 33 years old, or that means 2032. Now, why is this important? I've given some past predictions for this native and they have come spot on. Therefore, I'm quite confident about this chart and palm that there is something that shows that this period, that is age 33 to 35, is going to be a little difficult for this native. I'm not going to look into the Parashari techniques right now. We will stick to BHRIGU Nadi or BHRIGU Nadi here. Okay, so I have explained. I'm going to focus on Saturn line, Saturn mount, birth chart, and natal position of Saturn, the age when this particular event or this Sade Sati would commence. Then we have to focus on the transit positions of the graha, the three slow moving graha. So if you look at the year 2032, the transit Saturn would be on Vrishab Rashi, that is Taurus. Transit Jupiter would be on Ketu. Now you can see that means there is a trinal connection here in the transit I'm talking about. Okay, and transit Ketu would be on Saturn. Broadly, we have come to a point where these three slow moving graha are placed on certain graha and certain rashi when this native is 33 years old. Now let us look at the palm lines, which is the primary focus for us because we are looking at Nadi and Bhrigu Nadi. So it is something important. I mean, we have to focus on the palm lines. What does the palm lines say? Let's see. This is the Saturn mount. So if you look at this line, this line is originating from the periphery of the Saturn mount, trying to reach the Ketu rekha, trying to touch or reach the Ketu rekha. You can see the Nadika rekha here are thickening. So that means there is a connection. Okay, the circuit is completed. That is one thing. Now the next part is that this particular rekha here, which is the mount of Saturn or the parvat, Shani parvat. Look at the quality of the picture, simply superb. So if you observe carefully, you can see these thin lines crossing into the Shani mount, Shani parvat, and they have their origin around this area, which is nothing but the Mesha Rashi. It's nothing but the Mesha Rashi. Okay. In the chart, the Shani is placed in Mesh Rashi. Mesha is the owner or the lord of Mesha is Mars. We will look into Mars later, who is retro. Okay. So now what I have explained to you here is that these rekha are very thin. They are very thin. They are tail like. They are tail like. They are touching. They are touching Saturn mount. Okay. If you remember, just like 2 minutes before, I told you that the transit Ketu would be on Saturn at the age of 33. Just a while ago I had mentioned this. Okay. The tail like lines touching the Saturn mount get activated at the age 33. Please note. These rekha can be put in the category of Badha rekha. These rekha can be put or classified as Badha rekha. Badha rekha. Their activation time has to be calculated based on the transit as well as how the impact of other rekha of originating from the same mount touch the Saturn line. So what we are trying to see is how is the connection made between these rekha and the Saturn line. That's what we are coming to. Now please look at this part. The Shani rekha is, this is his primary Shani rekha. Look at the Shani rekha. It is completely severed, broken at this point. Why? Because you can see the rekha coming from Mesha Rashi are the rekha coming from Mesha Rashi are responsible for this. As I told you, Mesh is owned by, lauded by Mars. This is a Badha rekha. Many people in those who are doing general palmistry always put these rekha in the category of Rahu rekha, which is not true, which is not the right way to look at it. Anyways, I don't want there will be a controversy erupting in this case. So let us stick to this. So here we see that the Badha rekha are coming towards the Shani rekha, breaking it. There is no Shani rekha after this. There is, but it looks like a river that has dried, or we can say that it's like a dried river bed. Okay, so that's how I would put it in simple words. If you observe again, these Badha rekha are now you have to watch, you have to look at these Nadika rekha. You see that they are dropping their energies into this zone. As you know, this is the 8th house. So here we see that the Shani rekha is completely gone, disappeared. This is the age 33. The age 33 when the Saturn, the transit Saturn is on Venus. Transit Jupiter is on Ketu. And the transit Ketu is on Shani. Okay, natal. I'm talking about natal here. These are natal, and natal. So what is happening here? You can see there is going to be a major calamity. Let us go one more step further into this analysis where we see why this is going to happen. Why? Who is responsible for this? Why is why are these pointers pointing towards one particular graha? And that graha is Mars or Mangal or Kuja. Let us see why. Because if you observe, the Mars line or the Kuja rekha in this palm is pretty strong. It's very, very strong. And I can see the shape because having seen hundreds of palms, I can tell you that this is unusually strong. Okay? Unusually strong rekha. Very, 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 very strong and powerful. And that shows that this palm is completely dominated by Mars. Let us go into the chart again. Now focus on Mars. The Mars is retro. The Mars is retro. Okay. He is Vakri. That means it has got Cheshta Balam. Correct? Cheshta Balam. It means very strong. The Mars aspects the Shani. The Mars aspects the Shani. Because it is having Cheshta Balam, it can be damaging to the native. Looking at the Parashara's Paddhati also, you can see that it's the 8th lord, correct, and aspecting the Saturn. Very dangerous because Saturn is Neech, is in Neech Rashi. Saturn is with the Sun, enemy, who is also the 12th lord. Mars is a malefic here, being a natural malefic as well as the lord of 8th, very dangerous, and it is having power which is validated from the palm also. So you don't even have to look at the Varga charts or any other stuff. You can easily say it is very powerful. Because of this Balam, this retro effect, it will drop some energies into the rare sign, which is the 12th house. This is Kanya Rashi. Okay, this is Kanya Rashi. Now why am I saying that? Because this Mars is not Anuvakri. This is not Anuvakri. Okay, why it is not Anuvakri? Because it is 7th from Sun. So it is not Anuvakri. Therefore, it will certainly be very powerful. What other features can you see here in this? What are the characteristics? You can see from Rahu, from Rahu 3 and from Ketu 3. So the Mars is equally spaced from Rahu and Ketu. What else can you see? The Mars is having, if you see, the Mars is placed or enclosed, isolated. There is nothing in the 2 and 12 positions in Mars. What else do you see? The Mars is trapped. The Mars is trapped in the Rahu Ketu axis. The Mars is trapped in the Rahu Ketu axis. The Mars is also putting 7th aspect on Shani. Therefore, you can see that this particular part, the Shani rekha, is completely broken. Now, since this Mars is isolated and it is trapped in the Rahu Ketu axis, this Mars will behave erratically. Its Karakatvas will show unusual behavior. They will give unusual results. I can say extraordinary results also sometimes if it's a good palm. But in this case, the palm is not giving positive indications. If you look at the palm again, here, if you look at the reverse palmistry, we generally do the reverse side also. See this condition here of the lifeline or the Shukra rekha. Pretty sad. Okay, so that also gives an indication what is in store. So you might be thinking, I am making a mountain out of a molehill. This is not true. What I am trying to do is to analyze in depth in a very comprehensive manner. Luckily, we have a very good picture, palm picture. Quality of the palm picture is extremely good. And you also should observe when you zoom in, what is this sign? This is nothing but the Dweep, right? So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say anything further. This is 8th house amplified. That's all. 8th house amplified. Now, let us go into how we would use a direction chart. A direction chart is used in BNN. Direction chart is used in BNN. What is a direction chart? We will see. Now, in a direction chart, we actually group the graha based on their tattva. That means here you can see that the Mercury and Jupiter are in Meena Rashi. Meena Rashi is Jala Tattva. Similarly, Rahu is in Jala Tattva, Karkataka or Karka Rashi. There is no graha here in the Vrishchik Rashi. So, based on the degrees, we will put them in the ascending order. So, here the Mercury will come first, then comes Jupiter, and then comes Rahu. Okay, these are the graha in the northern directions, which is the Jala Tattva. Then I will come to the east. If you look at the eastern Rashis, this is Mesha Rashi, which is the Agni Tattva. There is only the only in Mesha you will find two grahas. So I'm going to put them in order. Sun is lower degrees, followed by Saturn. Okay, then we will have to use the southern, which is nothing but the earth or the Bhumi Tattva. So Bhumi Tattva Rashis are Venus and Ketu here. Now I am coming to an important concept, which is Dr. or Sri R.G. Rao sir's concept. In a while, let me just put these Rashis. So I have grouped them as per their Tattva. This is north, this is east, this is south, and this is west. You can observe that this Mars, as I told you, is shedding some part of it and a part of its energy into Kanya Rashi, which is Bhumi Tattva, correct? As per Sri R.G. Rao, when this happens and when the graha is not anuvakri, please remember, only then one can say that in the Bhumi Tattva you will certainly find effect of Mars. So on Ketu and Venus, we will see an effect of Mars because it is influencing the Bhumi Tattva. Now, this is not true in all the palms. You have to see, this is not true in all the chart, I'm sorry. You have to see the palm and then decide whether I should put this or not. The second thing, the second criteria could be to see if the condition of Mars, especially whether it is having a lot of bal or not in the chart, and determine whether how much of the energy, the negative energy or the positive, whatever energy is shed into the Bhumi Tattva here. So here you can see clearly that this is very well directed towards the southern Rashi, which is the Bhumi Tattva. Now again using the direction chart, so you see this particular group always moves towards, moves clockwise towards the southern Rashis, but Ketu here being a retrograha is moving towards the eastern side, eastern Rashis. So that means there is a connection made. So which means Ketu, Mars and Saturn are somehow linking, isn't it? Ketu, Mars and Saturn are somehow linking. You can see that the Ketu means tail. I have mentioned that earlier. This is Saturn. This area is Mesha Rashi, which is nothing but Mars. Very well validated from this. When the Saturn comes on Venus, when the Saturn touches Venus, that is when we say the Sade Sati has started. The Saturn touching Venus means it directly comes under the influence of Ketu and Mars. The Jupiter is also touching Ketu. Just observe this. The Jupiter is also touching Ketu. The Saturn is touching the Venus, and the natal Ketu is on Saturn. This is not good as per the palm, and the break in the Saturn line is seen at exactly that point. So the Sade Sati of this person is going to bring calamities. Let us see whether this is supported by BHRIGU Nadi now. Now see, in BHRIGU Nadi, what we generally do is that in BHRIGU Nadi what we generally do is we look at the, use a different color. In BHRIGU Nadi, we use Jupiter rounds of Jupiter. Okay, rounds of Jupiter. So when we use the rounds of Jupiter, we find that the 33rd year is the third round of Jupiter. Because third round is from 24 to 36. Now, as per BHRIGU Nadi dictum, in the third round, when Saturn touches Venus, in the third round, when Saturn touches Venus, and when the Saturn line is cut, it shows calamity. Okay, this is not my dictum, this is the dictum as mentioned in BHRIGU Nadi. Okay, so therefore we will attribute the Sade Sati, we generally attribute this to Sade Sati in Parashari. If anybody looks at the chart from Parashari point of view, he or she will say, yes, this person is going to have problems because the Shani is now, because this person is under the influence of Sade Sati. Then if you look at the Dasha here, it is Saturn. I'm using JN Bhasin with mean nodes. I don't use Lahiri. So when you look at Saturn, exactly it matches 2032 March month. It starts 2032 Saturn, and Gochar Saturn is on Venus. Sade Sati starts. Saturn is in the 8th house. Saturn is Neech. 8th Lord Mangal is aspecting Saturn. All right, everything, so all the systems, all the paddhatis are matching. Okay, there is Yuti of Shani and Surya. That itself shows problems, and 8th house. So lot of things are matching here. So this wraps up our analysis here. In short, in BHRIGU Nadi and BHRIGU Nadi, Sade Sati is otherwise known as the 212, transit across moon, and it can bring lot of trouble to the native, but strictly speaking, you should never predict it directly. In many palms, I have seen that Sade Sati brings double benefits as well. It gives exalted results. It gives results those are unexpected in a good way, I am talking about, but it can also give very negative results. Everything depends on the palm line and the other things, other graha, how the interaction, if there are badha rekha, if there is a break, if there is an island. Also looking at the condition of the mount of Saturn, also looking at the graha, malefic graha, the strength of malefic graha in the particular palm. You have to look at it in a comprehensive way or in depth manner. Okay, to be able to predict something like a calamity, one has to go in depth. I have given some predictions to this native and which have come true. He has confirmed that these things happened at the age of 24, 25. So that gave me confidence that yes, I am on the right track as far as this palm is concerned. So basically, I'm wrapping up this analysis. This was a really slow, boring and you can see that in-depth analysis. If you really like it, give me a like, or subscribe, whatever, if you like it. I will be bringing more and more BNN and Bhrigu Nadi chart based analysis with the palm, and we will do different types of yoga, yuti, etc., etc., with the transit and with the palm line. Dhanyavad.